Hey, what's going on, guys? Battle Nations Emperor here, back today with another video. And today, guys, we have another good question. We have a lore question. And it's something you don't really think about until somebody mentions it, and then, you can't get it out of your head. And it's just a broad question. So, of course, Battle Nations is an awesome world. I mean, it's amazing. This game has way too much attention to detail. Of course, we're in the sandbox here. And I mean, like, look at this. This is, of course, our regiment right here. It has a rotation model. Not only does it, despite never having obviously the option to do this in game, right? All of them do. Even Gannis's fortress, it's like you were never supposed to ever see these things from any other different angle, yet they have these rotating features. So yeah, point being, oh yeah, I forgot about the duplication glitch in the sandbox. So yeah, point being is this game has an amazing world. And despite having just one of the best overall designs for a game, in my opinion, it does leave a lot of questions. And one of those very good questions is, does Battle Nations take place on the same planet, Earth, as we do? So that's a pretty loaded question. We're about to get into it. Of course, that goes over our history, Battle Nations history, is anything related, and my final conclusion, and of course, my theories. Because at the end of the day, nothing's conclusive here. It's all fan theory and fan opinion. So if you have your own, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your own opinion on whether or not Battle Nations is truly from this world or not. But with all that being said, and me duplicating Recoil Ridge, let's jump right into it, starting off with what we do know. Where does Battle Nations even take place at? Well, that we actually do know definitively. It takes place on the continent known as Andorra. And Andorra looks exactly like this. This is a confirmed overview of the continent we live on in Battle Nations. And if you look at it, you'll notice something pretty funny about it. Is that, well, one, the Empire controls just about all of it, as we'll read in the wiki description in a second. But also, this certainly isn't Earth. There is nothing on Earth that even slightly resembles this. So it begs the question, this can't be Earth, right? Well, you look a little bit into it, and let's go ahead and read the wiki here. So I'll go ahead and throw it up on screen right here. And it reads in the overview, Ateria is the continent where Battle Nations takes place. The Empire controls most of the continent, through other countries exist, even though most aren't mentioned in the game storyline. So that's absolutely true. There are technically other countries within this game, within Battle Nations. However, they're not really mentioned because, let's be honest, we're the protagonists, we're the coolest guys here, we're kind of what the story focuses on. But other countries are confirmed to exist. So let's go ahead and review the history of Ateria. Though the majority of Ateria's land is controlled by the Empire, which expanded under Emperor Hedric the Great, through military force, many Aterian countries were absorbed, leading to widespread oppression. And by the way, I'm just reading the Wikipedia as is, but this is confirmed fake news, as confirmed by the Imperial News Network. So just take everything you're reading with a grain of salt. You are reading, rebel propaganda here, but nevertheless, we continue. Emperor Hedric the Great's son, Emperor Trajan, later industrialized these new territories, which of course we see in the intro of Battle Nations itself. During his reign, the rebellion began to form. Trajan's son, Emperor Hedric II, initially controlled the rebellions, but after the defection of General Ash, of course, the beginning of, the very storyline, doesn't even need a spoiler alert right there because, it happens at the beginning of the game, but we will get into it a little bit as we continue, but going on. The rebels gained momentum, of course, after Ash joined them, ultimately leading to the assassination of Hedric II during their surprise attack on Karsten. Of course, that's the capital of the Empire's capital, which it there directly states. The Empire then crumbled, leaving rebel leaders organized from the countries the Empire had conquered to decide its fate. And that's, of course, where unfortunately the storyline ended. Z2 had confirmed they wanted to continue the chapter after that, being about how the Empire remains formed the new Empire. But of course, we never got to saw that with the shutdown of Z2. But back in 2025, new leaders, awesome people called Madrona. We now have a chance to see that. I would love that to be some of the first new Battle Nations content once we get level 70 back and all. Would love to see them finish up this story. But we continue reading on. And really much, I already showed you guys the image. All we have left is Sovereign Navy, and it just reads, The sovereign navy is a naval power from a small, distant continent. Having already conquered all of the land on their continent, they set their sights on Ateria, targeting the empire first due to its control of most of the land. And that's pretty much true. They're kind of a threat, but not really since they're so far off. There's no way they could really control land out here besides just do small land skirmishes, which is exactly what they do. If I had to compare them to anybody, basically they're this world's version of Britain. But that kind of gets into our direct question. Is this world our world? And I'm going to go ahead and say it definitely isn't too disconnected from our Earth. It certainly isn't Earth one to one. I mean, look at this. This is obviously not any continent on Earth. This isn't neither the Americas or anywhere in the old world. However, this still definitely, at least in my opinion, is very similar to our own Earth. Why do I say this? Because look at all of this. I mean, just this military section, all of this looks like human stuff. The humans, Morgan, Ramsey, all of the main cast, all of the enemies, everybody looks human. All of these technologies, they look too human. And what really gets me and what really kind of seals the case for me is honestly, funny enough, the units themselves. I mean, when you look at stuff like this is just, of course, the tanks of battle nations. These are literally the progression of our real world tanks from early version World War One, issued by the Allied powers, mainly Britain, but then moving on to, World War Two, going into some of the Shermans, and honestly some of the best tanks until we get into modern day with Abrahams and whatnot. And you could kind of argue maybe an Abrahams is loosely based off a megatank, but a megatank is more just realistically a United States Secretary of Defense's wet dream, which if we had the technology, I think we could pull off. If I ever got political power, it would be not my number one priority to get a megatank built in real life, but I digress. Point being is there's way too much overlap with the real world and the world of battle nations to all consider it just to be a coincidence or, just, a mishap, If they maybe all looked human, sure, maybe a completely different planet with just humans. Maybe if, they were still fighting but spoke foreign languages or had completely different get-ups. Cool, but guys, at the end of the day, it's literally everything we have. It's all of our technology. It's all of our culture. It's everything from Earth, just in a slightly different fashion. I mean, even these shops right here, like, they do look a little bit insane, like Mammoth Pen. We obviously don't have Mammoth Pens, but if we had mammoths around today, we probably would have Mammoth Pens. Okay, I don't think any real butcher really carries pig on them, but the concept is still absolutely there, and there certainly are wild boars that do kind of look like imperial boars, by all means. So there's way too much overlap with the battle nation's history, culture, and their technology, and the technology of Earth, to just consider it a coincidence. So to me, while it certainly is a different Earth with the continents and all, it cannot be denied that we certainly have a major influence on these people. So, with that all being said, what's my final verdict? I'm going to go with the theory that despite being different, despite, again, looking different and, being heavily influenced, I'm going to say we're probably on just a bigger Earth. Either a bigger Earth or just an Earth with reshaped continents. Maybe when Pangea was breaking up, instead of breaking up to how we know it, in our real life Earth, it just broke up into a different formation that allowed for somehow Ateria to exist, and that's the world battle nations takes place in. But then again, I'm going to jump back to the tanks, and the reason I'm harping so much on the tanks is because, tanks are very methodical. I mean, obviously, they're human machines, they're human inventions. So if you have something that looks exactly like our tanks, well, that would imply what made our tanks happened in this universe as well. What made our tanks? World War One and World War Two. Very definitively, very easily enough, pretty much every single modern tank can base its origin, one way and another, to the Great Wars. So that begs the question. Since Battle Nations, very clearly, or at least from the looks of it, has our same type of, tanks, did they experience the World Wars? Was there an Austrian painter in Battle Nations? Okay, I'm not going to go there. But point being is, what type of history overlap is there with the Battle Nations universe and our universe? And I would argue a good bit. But then you have the question of, well, if they certainly don't have the same, geography as we do, having completely different continents that don't even exist on our planet, how can they have similar historical events? I mean, seriously, imagine World War II, but the continent of Anteria exists. That's like a completely different war. You're literally redefining what the war is because you're adding a completely brand new imaginary player to it. So, with that being said, it's hard to really pin it down. And the reason it's hard to pin it down is because it's a mobile game from 2011. You're not supposed to put this much thought into it. This single video and any commenter who has gone down this path of thought, while you are definitely a dedicated fan to Battle Nations, and I appreciate you, my friend, because you have a mind like mine, we weren't supposed to put this much thought into it. And that's why none of this makes sense. But in conclusion, I'm going to say it's a very similar world to ours that somehow had pretty much the exact same thing, literally talking both world wars. Yes, I think everything happened the same. I think there was a Cold War. I think America existed. And I think America eventually became the empire. Yes, that is my headcanon. I don't care what anybody says. Is it wrong? Almost certainly. But it's what I'm going to go with. And if you guys have your own whack job conspiracy theories about Battle Nations, please let me know. I would love to hear them in the comments down below. And yeah, with all that being said, that will just about do it for us today, guys. Just want to make this fun little conspiracy video, talk about it because I saw a few people mention it on Reddit and Discord, and not going to shout them out because they didn't ask for a shout out. I'm not sure if they want their name leaked, but if anybody who mentioned it on Discord or Reddit in the past few days, because there was a few people, if any one of you guys want a shout out, just let me know. Comment down below, and I can definitely, give you a little heart or whatever you want. And yeah, that will just about do it for us today, guys. Guys, if you're still watching, I greatly appreciate you. Thank you very much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, please consider dropping a like down below and subscribing to the channel if you are new. And yeah, guys, with all that being said, that will just about do it for us. Thank you very much for watching today's Battle Nations lore/theory video. And with all that being said, that will do it for us. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, have a great rest of your day.